take it. Got it! Boston wins!
Two legends in basketball analysis with over 70 years combined experience. This is the Bob Ryan and Jeff Goodman podcast.
NBA, some college, a little bit of everything.
You know, what can I say? But it wasn't going to happen here with him. I was okay with it because it wasn't about talent, I didn't think.
All right, let's get right to it.
It is the Bob Ryan, Jeff Goodwin, Tanguay Along for the Ride podcast. We are sponsored by FanDuel, the official wagering partner of the CLNS Media Networks. Score this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Jeff is spending some quality family time, so you're stuck with the two of us again. What you see is what you get. Robert, let's talk about the Celtics here since coming off this road trip. First of all, the question I have for you is, why is it so difficult for a team to win their first home game after, say, going out west and going like 3-1 like the Celtics did?
It's an interesting phenomenon because it's been in the terms of the Boston Celtics, and I can only speak specifically about them. It's been going on for 40 years or 50 years.
Right.
That they are traditionally a little sluggish in the first game home from after a major road trip, and this year it was accentuated. I thought maybe that the fact that they were playing the Pistons, and we all know you don't want to be the team that breaks the streak, and that they would be sufficiently motivated. And of course, we know their first half may have been their first half of the year.
Right.
They were so uncommonly sloppy. It was like, oh yeah, we don't want the ball. You take it. Why do we want the ball? What are we supposed to do with this thing? And that's the way they played in the whole first half. And Detroit was very willing to take advantage of that. Okay. Why? I don't know. I mean, this one is a little bit different than you, but you get complacent. You're home. You think you're back in mommy's womb or something, and you don't. But this has been going on for years. But if I'm a bettor, I take no to it. That's all. I'll put it that way. Okay.
Well, I think too, like the Larry Bird, Rick Roby days. Maybe the road trips were a little too festive. Or as one time when I was actually traveling with the Celtics and we got into Chicago, and at 5 limos were waiting outside at like 1 a.m. for players to go out. So, I think the road.
Well, there's something.
There's some distractions for young men.
No kidding. I mean, I got stories I could tell that I don't want to tell.
Right.
So, back in those days. So, there you go. I can relate to what you're saying. All right. So it's a phenomenon. Now, fact is, they finally pulled themselves together, and they did.
They're amazing, Bob. Let me throw this number out because I was watching the in what the Pistons needed 2 quarters to do. The Celtics basically needed like 8 minutes to erase.
Right.
Which
that's how good. Well, that's it. That's the team to it. But you're right. It was they got right into it, and they had it down to single digits by 6 minutes in, and we went from there. I got to say this. My big takeaway from the game. Oh, well, first of all, it was a specific play, but let's get there first. They're so lucky. And it was just, and I would say it was a bad call because it was an impossible call. And that goaltending call, that is the ultimate referee nightmare. Not block charge, it's goaltending. And you saw how many times they had to review it. And the thing is, if they had called it the other way and said it wasn't goaltending, then it wouldn't have been overturned because the incontrovertible evidence to overturn it was clearly not there. That was the greatest borderline. I don't know. It was right there. You could go either way, right? And they benefited from that. And then, of course,
when you look at replay, it happened again in the it happened again in the second game. It happened again against Toronto. God, Tanguay, come out of the fog. Where you look at the replay, and the ball is like right there, and it's like scouts like, is it? I mean,
and of course,
it's crazy.
No, it was tough. And so the call was made goaltending, and therefore it was not overturned. And had they made the call the other way, it would not have been overturned. That was the ultimate. And I'll tell you, that's where replay, though, the referees in the old days would have had to live with the call. But anyway, that call was beneficial. Then they turn around and hand the game back to them. But when I watched that play, the jump shot was made and no one blocked out. Bogdanovich, but and the closest guy was the guy who does everything right, and that's White. It just happened. You see that thing unfold, you understand how it happened, but it was so much in keeping with the rest of the evening. They gave up 31 points on second shots, and that's probably a league high. I mean, they did everything. They totally deserved to lose that game.
They did.
Let me say this: Detroit shouldn't be that bad. They've got 3 guys minimum that every single other team in the league would say, "Hey, I'll take him. He'll play for me. He'll be in my rotation." And they are, of course, Cunningham, who is the second year now is sort of asserting themselves. So Cade Cunningham, Ivy, and Allen. Ivy, oh man, I'd like to get my hands on him. He moves well. He does. He's an aggressive kid. They shouldn't be that bad. How they have managed to lose 28, particularly since if you would have polled everybody, all the cognoscenti in the league, and before the season, what do you think of Monty Williams? I think it would. Oh, he's a good coach. I think people respect and like Monty Williams. Well, they certainly like him, and I think they respect him. And I don't know. This is a tough life that they're living. They shouldn't be that bad. I don't think on the raw talent. That's my opinion.
Well, right now it's obviously mental.
Yeah.
Like you said. I mean, it's in their heads. The Celtics came back in the third quarter and they go, here we go again.
Here we go again.
Yeah, here we go again. What are we going to do?
The numbers that they were giving us, the few times that all year they've had leads at the late in the game, it's astonishing. I mean,
that's huge, right? That's huge.
Yeah, they're seldom in games. But I'm telling you right now, you put Cade Cunningham up there on the open market and 30 teams, 29 teams are ready to scoop them up. So anyway, that's the story there. They're now in a position to break the record for, go whoopee, for most consecutive losses overall, because they've already set the single season record. Now they got to go for the 76ers overlap record.
Well, I mean, you mentioned Monty Williams. I remember Doc Rivers, I think, endorsed him, which helped. But didn't Monty have to coach one of Doc's kids? And wasn't he in New Orleans, then Phoenix, then here? Isn't this his third team?
Well, Austin's been around so much. I think you're right. I don't know where it went.
Yeah, but I think this is his third team, though, right? Monty? I got to check.
Yeah, Phoenix.
So you wonder, those guys, he's the guy, but then you kind of I don't know.
I mean, his reputation, I don't know what this is going to do to his reputation, So I don't know. But but everybody is rooting for him. Personally.
Nice guys don't always make the best coaches, Bob. We know that.
No, we do know that. And real.
Here's a question for Bob Ryan for the History Channel. Without putting you on the spot, who was the meanest, meanest, grumpiest, hardest, toughest, best coach you ever saw? Was it Fitch?
Oh, Bill Fitch was a coach. Absolutely. He was a coach in every way. And he was a comet that flashed across because he wore people out. And he wore the Celtics out by year 4.
Well, Larry loved him.
And Bill Fitch. Bill Fitch was instrumental in helping turn them around. When people think about 79-80 and the fact that they went from 29 wins to 62, and the first thing I think about is Larry. Yes, Larry was extremely important. However, they got a real coach, not Dave Cowens, who didn't want to coach anyway. He had finished up the year before as player coach. It didn't go very well, and got a real coach. Tiny Archibald regained health. He had been after suffering Achilles. They signed ML Carr away from Detroit, and he had led the league in minutes played the year before. He was a free agent. They signed ML Carr. They got Joe Henderson. Who had been, it was delayed getting there, but it was another equivalent of a first round draft pick. So a lot of things, but Bill Fitch was instrumental. And then they win the championship the second year in 80-81. But by 83, I'm telling you right now, in that playoffs against Milwaukee, they had a mini series with Atlanta. Then they had the playoff with Milwaukee. They got swept. Yeah, Larry was sick and actually missed the game, but they had tuned him out. Everybody but Larry, everybody who mattered, I won't say the 8, 9, 10 guys, 12, 11, 12, they tuned him out. But he was, and by the way, he couldn't, that was the drill sergeant side of him. He could never suppress, you know what I mean? I liked him and we got along fine. But that wasn't the case with everybody, I'll be honest. But he and I would call him at night, talk about and And he used to kid. He lived in the bird's nest because he lived on the 33rd floor of a high rise down the street from the garden. But I liked him a lot. But the fact is that his MO was he wore people out.
Yeah, it's a tough job now, and we're going to get to Missoula and what he did in the Toronto game in a moment. But it's just it's a very tight line to walk, being a player's coach and still doing what's best for the team. It's because obviously a Bill Fitch wouldn't work today. Right.
I guess not. But then again, he's smart enough to keep the job and to make an adjustment. I think I think he's smart enough. He was smart, but right. The fact is, and he coached several teams. And I'll tell you, that Cleveland team in '76.
Oh, they were good.
They were very good.
That was Nate Thurman, right?
That was Thurman and Jim Jones. And yep. Jim Jones was hurt. Did not play against the Celtics in this, and that hurt them a lot. Nate was on his last legs, but he had something left in the tank, and he was good. No, that was a tough series, a tough 6-game series, and they were good. I was present when they beat the Bullets in Richfield Coliseum, and that crowd was as loud as any crowd I ever remember in the NBA. That was one of my that memory is very, very lasting. No, they were good, and he had taken over them as an expansion team. He was their first coach. It came out of Minnesota, and I struck up a good relationship with him, really, and so that helped me a lot. I learned. I mean, I'm telling you, Gary, he was an encyclopedia of NBA lore. He knew every player's background. He knew in the league where they went to college. Oh yeah, that's easy. Where they went to high school, and he had contacts. So he'd come back after a game and get on the phone and call his buddies like Cotton Fitzsimmons, and they talk about what happened in the league that night. He was encyclopedic, and that was why it was such a jarring contrast with Casey Jones, whose stick was anything. His stick was people. Period. Those guys played their ass off for him. They would run through 10 walls for him. They loved the man, and he knew how to win, and he knew how to relate to the great players. He didn't know how to relate to kids, but he knew how to relate to good players. And so that it was a big contrast from hanging out with a guy that knew everything about the league to a guy who we playing tomorrow night. That was KC. But when they showed up, KC had his guys. His guys wanted to play for him.
And that was the genius of Red Auerbach.
Yeah. Well, that was that was a very important transformation. That team needed the old hot, cool thing. They needed cool. The heat blast of Fitch was too much for them. And look around. They won the next year. Now Dennis Johnson was instrumental, and they'll make that trade. They don't win, but they did. And KC was the right man in the right place at the right time in '84 and '86. No question about it.
Okay. Well, speaking of Dennis Johnson, do you think Derrick White is this team's Dennis Johnson based on the 3 he made last night in Toronto or against Toronto?
Well, he's performing a variety of services for this team. I mean, the more you see him, the more you like him. I mean, and DJ, I just have reverence for DJ, and DJ had a style and aggressiveness. I always say he's the most destructive defensive guard I ever saw. And DJ did stuff now. Here's a very interesting comparison reference point. What Derrick White is doing, blocking these shots.
Right.
He's suddenly it's a phenomenon. He's blocking 2 shots a night out of the guard position, and that's extraordinary. Well, guess what? In 1979 finals against the Bullets. The then Bullets. Dennis Johnson was the MVP of the series. He averaged 20 points a game. Oh, by the way, he blocked, are you ready for this? 14 shots in 6 games of the finals from the guard position. Now that's aggressiveness. His style was different, but this guy's performed. I mean, Derrick White is one of the great, we've had these tremendous pickups over the years, going back to Don Nelson, who they got for like $1,000, literally. A waiver wire that Don Nelson picked up from the Lakers, and some others that but pickups. But Derrick White, I keep saying, how did we get him? What was San Antonio? Anyway, this guy he gets better and better. What doesn't he do? He's a defense. He's defends. He makes your threes. He goes to the. Don't you love him when he goes coast to coast?
Oh, he's tremendous.
That's way to get through that space either hand. We just love this guy, and he's become absolutely invaluable. We talked about him last episode.
We did
the All-Star game, and I just don't think he'll get there because the competition is more glamorous and too fierce. But does he belong there? You're damn right.
Well, if the players in the media had a bigger percentage of the vote, but 50% goes to the fans. So, and it should. So that may be his biggest obstacle. I can't. I do this every time you mention Dennis Johnson, and it just brings me joy to say it. So excuse my redundancy.
No problem.
Bob Ryan is courtside, cover of the game, and this is before big-time NBA sold out and made everybody, all those seats. They kicked out the media and started selling those seats for $1,000 a pop. Dennis Johnson's dribbling the ball up the floor. Bob Ryan is pontificating to Shaughnessy about something. And Dennis Johnson says, Bob, keep it down. We're trying to play a game.
Shaughnessy loves that story.
I love that story.
I can't deny it. You know, I don't remember it, but I can't deny it. I mean,
I love guys that in the Gene Shoe one. That Gene Shoe. That's for you, Bob Ryan.
Yeah, well, that one I love. I love telling that one myself.
Tell it again. Go ahead.
Okay. Rick Mahorn was a thuggy player. Let's face it. And there was a circumstance where he's on one of his thuggy roles. I write one of my Sunday columns, and I asked Darryl Garrettson, who was his head of refs at the time, if certain players are scrutinized more closely than other players because of their recurring behavior.
Their physical play.
And out of line. Okay, they'll go over the line, and specifically I asked him about Mahorn, I think, and he acknowledged in so many words, or that yeah, absolutely yes, and Rick Mahorn, yes, okay. So I write this, and however I phrased it, we'd have to look it up, but I write it and in my Sunday column. Now, guess who comes into town soon? The Baltimore Bullets, or the Washington Bullets, coached by Gene Shue, with Rick Mahorn in the lineup. So in the game, I don't know, it was the first period, probably whatever. They called a foul. Someone called a foul on Rick Mahorn. Now, in those days, I sat deliberately. We had the options, next to the visiting bench while at home, as close as I could sit, so I could soak up their atmosphere. In those days. On the road, they always put us next to our bench, next to the Celtic bench. So I wanted to sit next to the visiting bench when I could at home. And the call's made on Mahorn. Gene Shue jumps up, turns around, and screams so you could hear it in the 59th row. That foul's on you, Bob Ryan. That's your fault. For which, hey, I was really happy to take credit if you want. I had a good relationship with Gene Shue. Okay. So, but that's he did, honest to God. Which first of all, I like the fact that he was reading Bob Ryan or reading it.
Well, Bob, listen, everybody in the NBA read Bob Ryan, McMullen, Shaughnessy, Peter May. It was Murderer's Row. I mean, everybody read that. So we go from there to Toronto game last night.
Yeah.
And I'm watching the game, and I get so frustrated when load management comes into play, right? So, and I read more about it in Washburn's column today, so I'm a little more enlightened. But I'm watching the game, and I'm like, why isn't Tatum playing? Come on. He's going to have Saturday night off. They play again on Sunday. They get 3 days off later in the week. Then I hear he's nursing an ankle thing. So you don't have Tatum. You don't have Porzingis, and you don't have
Horford.
Al. You don't have Al Horford. So, you trot out, Kornet gets 20 points, and you trot out this bench, and they go up by 20. And, then you see Toronto come back, and I'm getting frustrated as a fan watching this, right? But when you read about it today, because I wasn't at the game, there's a method to Joe Mazzulla's madness.
Well, I haven't read the column yet because my paper was late in being delivered.
Okay, well, I'll tell you this.
Didn't go, and I was waiting to go on. I can read it online, but I was waiting, give it a little. I haven't had the chance to morning.
Okay, I'm sorry, because you usually
you're there.
You beat all of us. He wants to get guys minutes. His theory is, even if Tatum's out, we should still win the game. He goes, I need everyone on this bench to feel important and as though they can contribute. And that's kind of the feeling everybody has right now. And he goes, I need these guys ready for the stretch run if they don't make a deal, if they don't make a trade.
Yeah. No.
So there's some method to his madness. So he believes in his guys, and he won.
And he won. And I've been saying for a year, Luke Cornett isn't that bad. That Luke Cornett is an NBA player, and he's a legitimate backup center who deserves to have a 10 or 12-year career doing what he does, and he will, I think. And that was probably his signature contribution to this team since he's joined the team. But I'm doing an I told you so to nobody in particular in the world that I've been saying I don't think he's that bad, and I think he's an asset and can be an asset. And last night he was an asset. I was out to dinner, and when I got tuned into the game, they were up by that 20. So I watched the whole thing unfold as it did, and you're yelling at the set. You're looking at stuff. Once there was some bad turnovers, and all that. But give the other guy. It's the NBA. That the thing is, this is hardly uncommon. I won't say every night in the league, some game like that takes that pattern, but probably every other night, somebody is coming from 20 or 15 down, and maybe they execute the final thing and get it done, or maybe they don't, but they get back in the game. Everybody in the league will tell you, that the other team's going to make a run. They'll tell you that, and they believe that the other team's going to make a run. That, and so it was. Now, here's my one takeaway, and Brown, I didn't see him get off to that great start, but I know he had that great start and helped carry them. That's exactly what you expect and want out of him when Tatum is not there. If he's going to be the guy he thinks he is, then that's the kind of game he should play, and he played it, all right, for the most part. And then the game clinching basket was that dish off that he made. And Brian Scalabrine was all over it, and he said absolutely the perfect thing. He said he doesn't make that pass last year. And that shows a sign of something, whatever, awareness that we've been asking for him to show. And if that's the way he's going to be, that's really good. But it wasn't like it was a great pass, but it was a needed pass. It was the pass you should make, but he made it. And Scal was right. He probably doesn't make that pass last year.
Little bit of Mbutu happening. Little bit.
Yeah. So
listen, women. Look, I've had this discussion. God, friends of mine, they coach in college. I keep telling them, winning breeds chemistry. Yeah. They always tell me it's the other way around. I go, no, not in the pros, dude. No. Winning breeds chemistry, and now there's a chemistry. There's a camaraderie with this team, and good for Joe Mazzulla. Recognizing that, because Bob, you know as well as I do, in the NBA now, it's not so much the X's and O's. It's getting the team to gel. It's getting them together. It's getting them to look. You get them to buy what you're selling. You got to get them to buy what you're selling. It's just that simple. And last year they still won 57 games. In his maiden voyage, and we know he was a little shaky at times. And I think it's gonna be an important week for Joe. That interview he gave last week, some of the stuff that's up in that mind, we didn't know how some of the thoughts that were running around in that guy's mind. He's got this thing thought out. The way he's got it thought out. I'm impressed. I really learned a lot about him this week, and I'm impressed with him. And I think they're in good hands. I think they're in fine hands. I agree with you. I mean, he kind of reminds me of Spoelstra's rise a little bit. That's
a very good point. And that's a very good point. So I think in some ways it was an important week, and that's of course the winning the games that went on the road. Yeah, of course. Elsewhere in the league, a few things are happening.
Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action, NFL. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including you got spreads, you got your player props, you got over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Boston and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. I want to raise one more question on this, because I need to get to this.
Yes.
Jaylen Brown was phenomenal last night with 31 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists. Do we have to live with the 7 turnovers? To me, it's kind of like you can't, if you praise the 31 points, you can't bitch about the 7 turnovers. They come together.
You might. That's a very good question. I'm hesitant to declare it absolutely yes, but it's possible. But I still. that's too many, obviously. I mean, 3 or 4 is one thing, but 7's not good. He's once again, he made the bet. He made the big play. I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. I've taken a public stance that people are looking for too much out of him. I mean, they're putting him at impossible standards and accept him for how good he is and what he does for the team. Yeah, you might have to live with that, but we've had some big performances lately.
Yeah, if we can get it down to 5 or less, that'd be great. But I'm with you right now. It's like, okay, Jaylen, Tatum's on the bench. You're going to give me 31. You're going to give me 10. You're going to make it. I'll live with it.
Yeah,
I'll live with it. Anyways, yes, go ahead. Other thoughts?
Oh, no, that's all. It'll be one interesting couple of games coming up because we're going to get a look at the 2 big guys, the 2 rookies, the 2 back-to-back. If Wembanyama played, they're going to San Antonio. Now, Wembanyama missed the last game, and he's got an ankle. So I don't know if he's going to be available. But then they go to Oklahoma City. And if the voting were being taken now for Rookie of the Year, I don't think there's any doubt Holmgren would win. And I want to see Holmgren. I'm anxious to see him play, a full game. And so that's 2 intriguing. That's 2 reasons. Who would think that San Antonio OKC said they become appointment TV for me? And so,
people love OKC right now.
Looking forward, yeah. They're a growth stock. They're definitely a growth stock, and so that's going to be fun game. Okay, all right. Now, Phoenix, the big 3,
right,
hasn't had much opportunity to play together, but Beal showed up last night, and so they're so far away from where they might be, and so all they got to do is get in and as they say, that as Parcells would say, the tournament. All they got to get in the tournament, and then we'll see. Right now, there's no that should be their only goal is to hope that they're intact when April comes. See if they're little.
Well, you've been big on watching Beal. I mean, we've been waiting to see this because we need some entertainment out of the West because Golden State isn't what they once were. Is anybody really going to challenge Denver out of the West? I mean, is anybody really?
Well, I mean, we got Minnesota. Are they for real? That's the biggest question of all. Is Minnesota? Are they for real? And we will. I mean,
if Phoenix is whole, and they meet Denver, if it works out.
Phoenix's big issue is the depth. Did they mortgage the farm too much to get these guys?
Right.
They've given away draft picks into the 22nd century, and they better do what they're going to do. They're a now team, we talked about this last time. Celtics are a now team. When
Phoenix is really a now team.
When you're not playing anybody, when the youngest guy you're playing in this NBA is 24, and that's Pritchard. The youngest guy you're playing, that's middle age almost now in the NBA. Look at what's going. But anyway, Phoenix is a now team, and they got to get it because Durant, say no more. He's still rolling along though, very, very well. By the way, happy birthday, LeBron! I got to say this: LeBron James turns 39.
Amazing.
And there was a very good story in USA Today on Friday about just putting it in perspective what he is doing at age 39.
Amazing.
No one has ever come close to averaging 25. What he's doing. Michael Jordan had a game or two, but this is the greatest aging process the NBA has ever.
Well,
known.
I mean, this lends itself to LeBron when you do the LeBron MJ argument. Right? Yeah. I mean, Michael at 39, wasn't he a little chunky?
He still averaged 40
jumpers in Washington.
He still averaged 20 a game, but he wasn't throwing in the triple doubles the way LeBron can do still, and giving you he wasn't. No, LeBron is there's no competition. Kareem was still around and it was very useful, but he was no longer the force. LeBron isn't that far off where he was 5 years ago.
I know.
And it's not and the numbers prove it, and the performances prove it. So I mean, and happy birthday! This, of course, is one of my favorite little annual. It used to be a tweet, which is now an X, but the planets and stars were very well aligned on December 30th in 1935 when Sandy Koufax was born. In 1974 when Tiger Woods was born, and in 1984 when LeBron James was born, all on the same day, the 30th of December. That's a tough one to beat, folks.
That's a pretty good trio. So what do we think about the Joker here? 20
the Joker.
The last two games.
Well, the Joker's got had a unique triple-double the other night. And it was unique, if you use the word properly, it means one of a kind. There have been skillion triple-doubles. None included a player was perfect from the floor. He had a triple-double on Thursday night in which he was 11 for 11 from the floor, en route to his 26 points, 14 rebounds, and 10 assists. Then last night, in a losing effort, by the way, but last night, he shoots 10 for 11. He's 20 for 21 his last two games. Now, my first thought was, that's not many. That's what? Take more shots. Well, I mean, that's nice, but you only got, hell, maybe you'd be better off being 15 for 19. But anyway, I just want to throw it out there for people to take note. The man had a triple-double with a perfect knife on the floor, and that has never been done in the history of basketball.
We talked about this on the last episode, but you mentioned Sandy Koufax, and it reminds me of what we discussed, because I can't remember if I read it before our show or after our show, but there were some more quotes from Jokic about how he just wants to play basketball and go home.
Yeah.
I mean, he was very emphatic about that. That's all I want to do. He could be the Koufax of the NBA. Like when he's done, you have no idea where he is. Yeah,
it's very possible. Sometimes they change, but you're right. I want to be alone. There's no question about him. By the way, Sandy Koufax went to the University of Cincinnati on a basketball scholarship.
He did?
He did.
I didn't.
By the way. And then he found out that he was a little bit better at another sport.
Just a little.
And,
I do know that the state of Maine claims Koufax a little bit.
Yeah, he had because he married Richard Widmark's daughter, right?
Right.
And there was a Maine connection there that there was
a house, I think, up in Ellsworth or Bar Harbor.
Yeah. I've never made the acquaintance, so that's one I missed.
He was on the shore with the wealthy Sama people. You and I are lake hounds. We're lake hounds.
We're lake people, right?
We're lake people. The people on the ocean.
I'm a web lake person.
Catch. Now, this James Harden thing. They're 15-8. They lost 5 in a row when he went to the Clippers. Now they're 15-8. Just can't. Are they a threat?
They're annoying. They're going to be a pesky team. Yeah, they're if they're healthy. And now last night they won, and Leonard didn't play. That's been an issue with them for several years now. And that they got 4 aging, players. Don't forget they got Westbrook is coming off the bench, and that's a team that they're going to have certain games where they're going to be terrific, I think, and they're going to have certain games where they're going to look their age. Underrated player on that team is Zubac, by the way. He's not a bad player. He's one of it's someone to do the definitive story. I've thought about it, but I'm too lazy. The definitive story on the middle European big men in the NBA. All the guys with names in an itch, and so forth. No, really. I mean, the big men are being produced elsewhere other than the United States of America. Quality big men. I still come back to, although Edie's a Canadian, isn't he? Zach Edey. I think he is. I have to double check the kid at Purdue. But, the fact is that once again, the reigning college player of the year is 7'4", and he would not be in the first round of the draft. Everything they're telling us. That's where basketball is now. Yeah. Anyway, I think he's Canadian. So that would add to the story. Anyway, Zubac is a pretty good player. But but Harden, I look up, I want to dislike him so much, and I look up 10 assists, 11 assists, 12 assists. I still say where they came from. I can never remember. I swear, does he bribe every scorer in the league?
You love that.
I don't know how he does it, but I'm going to have to give the man his due. I don't want to.
That's awesome. Bob, a movie note as we end. Did you see Maestro yet?
No, and I want to, but it was number one on my list. Except that it came and went in my town on one week, and I thought it would be around. We're going to go see it. What I did see last night was Ferrari.
Oh, what'd you think?
Elaine, my wife, liked it a lot. I liked it okay. Adam Driver, he's on screen like 90% of the time, and he's very good. I didn't, and I know that there's fiction mingled with fact in the story, and I wish I had saved some of the reviews to read, but it grabs you. I'll tell you what, if you don't like noise, don't go, because the scenes, I'm saying, the car racing scenes are very, very graphic. Anyway, it's worthwhile. I would say, yeah, sure. Don't.
I will say this that's Michael Mann, right?
Yes, it's Michael Mann.
That's a director's movie.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
I'm watching and thinking, I'm thinking about editors. How about an editor? How about oh my God. I'm telling you, if you want to look at what must have been a hyphen busting job, was putting that thing together with the editing that was needed to do with that show. Let me tell you.
If you talk to the people that work on sets every day, so when I'm fortunate enough to work on a movie, I love to talk to the crew and pick their brain, because these people are veterans and they've seen it all. They will tell you the sound person and the editor are the two most important people. I mean, cinematographer, obviously, but like sound, mixing and editing, you can't. Hey, look, Scorsese's had, I forgot the woman's name, Helen, I believe. He's had the same editor for 35 years or whatever, 40 years. And she's won more Academy Awards than him.
Yeah.
So there you go.
No, so don't shy away from it, but Maestro, top of my list.
What's on Netflix?
Yeah, I know. And that's our resort. And
you can see I always
I like going to theater.
Well, I think it's a movie you do want to see on the big screen. I say, I don't know if Bradley Cooper will win Best Director, but he's going to win Best Actor.
A friend, Gene Ortza, the former NBA, Major League Baseball aide de camp to Donald Fair, is an acquaintance, just going strong acquaintance of mine, longstanding, and he's a big buff on a lot of things. And he was telling us, before you go, if you can, to appreciate what Cooper has done, and as an actor and as a musician that he studied for 6 years, they said. Help
crazy.
So the performance he puts on when he's conducting the pivotal scene of Mahler's Second Symphony it's extraordinary. And you can go YouTube up The Real Deal with Bernstein. And I did. And I hardly qualify as a classical music buff. I love music, but that's not my genre. I'm Great American Songbook, Broadway, right. 50s, 60s, 70s rock, but I'm not, but this moved me, Gary, I'm telling you. This, and I can't wait to see the movie, to see the big screen and all the real.
Well, wait for the big screen. I mean,
but they say that, but he said, Cooper is extraordinary. And of course, this is Bernstein with the hair flying and the stuff. But he said, but the conducting itself is professional. Wow. He's
amazing. He's going to win Best Actor. No doubt.
Well,
Sarah Silverman from New Hampshire. She's great in it. So
it's going to continue a long-standing trend now of people winning Best Actor or Actress portraying a real person.
Hard to do.
Well, but it's done all. It's hard. But somebody wins an Oscar doing it.
I know. You know why? Because this is my friends, my sports brethren, who sometimes chuckle at the art of acting with me. Oh, actors. Take a look at that. Take a look when you have to play a real person, and with YouTube, and you still win it. That is extraordinary.
Well, I'm going to make it. We're going to seek it out. It's got to be around town, around Boston.
Oh, you'll find it somewhere. You probably might have to go to a mall or something.
That's okay.
Bob, Happy New Year.
Hey, that's great. Thank you. Hey, Happy New Year, and thank all our supporters who they're wonderful, and it's been fun working with you. I'm looking forward. But this season, the Celtics are going to provide us with a lot of nights of pleasure. They've done it already, and they're going to do more. Give us more.
Okay, we've been brought to you by FanDuel, the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Networks. Score this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 for Bob Ryan if your team wins. For Bob Ryan, I'm Gary Tanguay. See ya in 24.